You don't notice the exact moment it begins. There is no clear starting point, no warning, no sudden shift that forces your attention. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It arrives like a shadow, slowly stretching across something that once felt stable, something that once felt like you. At first, it's almost nothing. A slight resistance when you wake up. Not exhaustion, not pain, just a subtle weight, as if your body is taking a fraction of a second longer to respond. You shake it off. You move. You start your day. Life continues. But then it happens again. Another morning where energy feels delayed. Another afternoon where focus slips through your fingers for no reason you can explain. Another night where your body is tired, but your mind refuses to follow. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to adjust. You push a little harder. You drink a little more caffeine. You sleep a little less deeply. You adapt. Because that's what people do. They adapt to discomfort long before they question it. And this is where the real shift begins. Not when your body changes, but when you stop noticing that it has. Because the truth is, nothing inside you happens randomly. There is no chaos in the way your body functions. There is only response, reaction, adjustment. And beneath everything you feel, beneath every change you cannot explain, there is a system working quietly, constantly, precisely. Your hormones. They are not dramatic. They do not demand attention. They do not make themselves known unless something goes wrong. But they are always there. By the time you start questioning what's happening inside your body, the process is already far underway. Not suddenly, not violently, but quietly, precisely, layer by layer. Because hormonal imbalance is not a single event. It is a chain reaction, a sequence of shifts that begin in silence and spread through your body like ripples in water, touching everything, changing everything, without ever asking for your attention. And at the center of this chain reaction, there is a force most people underestimate: stress. Not the obvious kind, not the moments that feel intense or dramatic, but the constant, low-level pressure that never really leaves, the kind you carry without thinking, the kind that becomes part of your normal. It starts the moment you wake up. Before your body is ready, your mind is already active. At some point, it stops being just physical. It's no longer just about energy, or sleep, or cravings. It becomes something deeper, something harder to explain, because what begins as a small imbalance slowly starts to change the way you experience yourself. Not all at once, but in moments. Moments so subtle, you almost ignore them until they begin to repeat. You notice that you don't react the same way anymore. Things that once felt easy now feel overwhelming. Situations you used to handle without thinking now drain you. Your patience becomes thinner. Your tolerance becomes lower. Your emotional reactions become stronger. And at first, you question it. Why am I feeling like this? Why is this affecting me so much? But there is no clear answer, because nothing around you seems different. Your life hasn't changed enough to justify it, but your internal world has. And that's what makes it confusing, because when hormonal imbalance reaches this stage, it doesn't just affect your body. It affects your identity, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you respond to the world around you. You begin to feel disconnected, not completely, but enough to notice, enough to feel like something is slightly off all the time. You wake up without the same sense of clarity. You move through your day without the same sense of control. You interact with people, but part of you feels distant, like you're present, but not fully there. And the hardest part? You can't explain it, because it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like a shift, a subtle change in who you are. And that's when doubt begins to grow. You start to question yourself. Maybe it's just stress. Maybe it's just life. Maybe this is normal. So you adapt. You adjust your expectations. You lower your standards for how you feel, because it's easier than searching for an answer you can't find. but the imbalance continues. And over time, the changes become more noticeable. Your motivation fades. Things that once excited you no longer do. You start things, but struggle to finish them. You want to be productive, but something holds you back. And you don't know what it is. You try to push through. You tell yourself to focus, to be disciplined, to try harder. But it doesn't work the way it used to, because this isn't about effort. It's about chemistry. Your brain is not receiving the same signals. Your body is not producing the same responses. The system that once made things feel natural is now out of sync. And that creates resistance. Not visible resistance, but internal. A kind of friction between what you want to do and what your body allows you to do. And that friction is exhausting because it makes simple things feel difficult. It turns normal days into heavy ones. It makes you question your own abilities. And slowly, it begins to affect how you see yourself. You start thinking differently. Maybe I'm just lazy. Maybe I've lost my discipline. Maybe something is wrong with me. And those thoughts become part of the problem because they add another layer of pressure, another layer of stress, which feeds back into the imbalance itself. And now the cycle is complete. Your hormones affect your thoughts. Your thoughts increase your stress. Your stress affects your hormones. And the loop continues. Stronger each time, deeper each time, until it feels like this is just who you are now. But it's not. This is not your personality. This is not your identity. This is a temporary state, created by a system that has lost its balance. But when you live in that state long enough, it becomes difficult to separate the two. You stop remembering what it felt like to be clear, to feel stable, to feel like yourself. And that's where the real danger lies, not in the symptoms, but in the acceptance of them. Because once you accept imbalance as normal, you stop looking for change. You stop questioning. You stop listening to the signals your body is sending you. And those signals become quieter, not because the problem is gone, but because you've learned to ignore it. And yet, deep down, there is always a part of you that knows, a part that remembers, a part that feels the difference. You notice it in rare moments, moments where your energy suddenly feels right, where your mind feels clear, where your emotions feel stable, and for a brief second, you feel like yourself again, and then it fades. And you wonder why it doesn't stay. But that moment is important because it proves something. It proves that balance is not gone. It's still there, beneath the imbalance, beneath the stress, beneath the habits that have built up over time. Your body hasn't forgotten how to function. It's just been pushed away from its natural state. And that means something powerful. It means this is not permanent. It means this is not who you are. It means you can return. But returning doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by ignoring the problem. And it doesn't happen by forcing your body to perform. It begins with understanding, with awareness, with recognizing that what you are feeling is not random. It is not weakness. It is not failure. It is a response to everything your body has been exposed to, everything it has adapted to, everything it has tried to handle without your awareness. And once you see that clearly, everything begins to shift. Because instead of fighting yourself, you start working with yourself. Instead of blaming your body, you start listening to it. And that changes everything. Because your body is not your enemy. It never was. It has been trying to protect you this entire time, trying to adapt, trying to survive, trying to keep you functioning, even when balance was lost. And now, for the first time, you begin to understand it. And that understanding is the beginning of control. Not control through force, but control through alignment, through giving your body what it needs, instead of pushing it beyond its limits. Because the version of you that feels clear, focused, stable, is not something you have to create. It's something you have to uncover. And in the next part, you'll see exactly how that happens. Not through extreme changes, not through complicated systems, but through simple shifts that restore what was always there: your balance, your rhythm, yourself. Thoughts begin forming, tasks begin stacking, expectations begin building, and without realizing it, your system is already under pressure. Your body doesn't ask questions. It doesn't analyze your situation. It reacts. It releases cortisol, the hormone of survival. And in small amounts, cortisol is not a problem. It's essential. It sharpens your focus, increases your alertness, prepares you to act. But cortisol was never meant to stay elevated. It was designed for moments, short bursts, quick reactions, followed by recovery. But in your reality, there is no recovery, because the pressure never truly stops. Even when you sit still, your mind keeps moving, even when you try to rest. Your thoughts remain active, even when you sleep. Your body doesn't fully relax, and so cortisol stays, not high enough to alarm you, but high enough to change you. It begins to alter your internal state. Slowly, subtly, but consistently. Your sleep becomes lighter. You wake up during the night without knowing why. Your body feels tired, but your mind refuses to switch off. Your mornings feel heavier. Your energy doesn't rise the way it used to, and your body begins to shift into a different mode. A mode designed for survival, not balance. And when your body is in survival mode, everything else becomes secondary. Recovery is delayed, digestion slows, fat burning decreases, energy is conserved, stored, protected, because your body believes it needs to prepare for something, even if that something never comes. And this is where the second shift begins, because cortisol does not act alone. It influences another powerful system, one that controls how your body handles energy: insulin. Every time you eat, your body breaks food down into glucose, sugar in your bloodstream. Insulin is released to move that sugar into your cells, to give you energy, to stabilize your system. In a balanced state, this process is smooth, precise, efficient, but under constant stress, everything changes. Because cortisol tells your body to hold on to energy, to store it, to prepare for uncertainty. And when that happens, insulin has to work harder. It releases more frequently, more aggressively, trying to keep your blood sugar stable. But over time, your cells begin to resist. They stop responding as effectively. They become less sensitive. And now, your body is forced to compensate. It produces even more insulin, trying to force the response. And this is where the cycle begins, a cycle most people live in, without ever realizing it. You eat. Your energy rises quickly. Then it crashes. You feel tired. You feel drained. And your body reacts. It signals hunger again, not because you need food, but because your system is unstable. So you eat again, and the cycle repeats again and again and again, until your body forgets what stable energy feels like, until hunger becomes constant, until cravings become intense, especially for sugar, especially for quick energy, because your body is searching for balance in the only way it knows how. But every attempt pushes you further away from it, and slowly, your relationship with food begins to change. You stop eating based on need. You start eating based on how you feel, to fix energy, to fix mood, to fix something you don't fully understand. And the more you do it, the deeper the imbalance becomes. But the story doesn't end there, because now, another system begins to shift, a more complex one, a more sensitive one. Estrogen, often simplified, often misunderstood, but deeply powerful. Estrogen is not just about reproduction. It interacts with your brain, your emotions, your metabolism, your body composition, your sense of stability. It influences how you feel in ways that are difficult to describe but impossible to ignore. And like everything else, it depends on balance, not too high, not too low. But when cortisol is elevated and insulin is unstable, estrogen loses its rhythm. Sometimes it rises, sometimes it drops, sometimes it fluctuates unpredictably. And that instability creates chaos. You feel emotional without a clear reason, sensitive, reactive, overwhelmed by things that once felt manageable. Your body begins to change, fat distribution shifts, water retention increases, your skin reacts differently, your energy becomes inconsistent, and your sense of control starts to fade. Because your body is no longer following a stable pattern. It's reacting, adjusting, trying to compensate, but never fully returning to balance. And this is the moment where doubt begins. You start questioning yourself. You wonder if it's mental, if it's emotional, if it's something you're doing wrong. But the truth is, this is not in your head. This is your biology. A system that has been pushed out of alignment. A system that is trying to function under constant pressure. And the longer it stays in this state, the more normal it begins to feel, until imbalance becomes your baseline, until discomfort becomes familiar, until the version of you that once felt stable feels distant, almost unreachable. But the most powerful part of this story is that none of this happens overnight. And that means something important. It means it can be reversed, because your body is not broken. It is adaptive. It learned this pattern, which means it can learn a new one. But before that happens, you have to see it. You have to understand it, because you cannot fix what you don't recognize. And most people spend years trying to fix symptoms without ever understanding the system behind them. They chase energy with caffeine. They chase weight loss with restriction. They chase calm with distraction. But the imbalance remains because the root has never been addressed. And until it is, the cycle continues, stronger, deeper, more automatic, until one day you stop and ask a question that changes everything. What is really happening inside me? And that question is where change begins, guiding, regulating, controlling. They determine when you feel awake and when you feel exhausted. They shape your hunger, your mood, your clarity, your drive. They decide how your body stores energy, how it uses it, how it protects itself. Every second of your life is influenced by signals you will never see. And when those signals are balanced, you feel like yourself, not perfect, not superhuman, just normal. Your energy rises naturally in the morning. Your thoughts feel organized, steady. Your body responds the way you expect it to. You eat when you're hungry. You sleep when you're tired. You move through your day without resistance. There is no friction between you and your own body. But when that balance begins to shift, friction appears, not suddenly, but gradually, like a machine that once ran smoothly, beginning to lose its rhythm. Your energy becomes inconsistent. Your hunger feels unpredictable. Your emotions begin to rise and fall without clear reason. And at first, you explain it away. Stress, lack of sleep, a busy schedule. Each explanation feels reasonable, logical, temporary. But the pattern continues, because what's happening isn't temporary. It's cumulative. It builds, day after day, choice after choice, habit after habit, until the imbalance is no longer subtle, but still not obvious enough to alarm you. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because you don't stop. You keep going. You keep adapting. Until one day, you realize that the way you feel now is not the way you used to feel, and you can't quite remember when it changed. This is the silent beginning of hormonal imbalance, not a moment, but a process. A slow drift away from stability, a gradual disconnection between how your body should function and how it actually does. And the deeper truth? Most people never recognize it while it's happening. They only feel the symptoms. The fatigue, the mood swings, the weight changes, the mental fog. They try to fix each piece separately, without realizing they are all connected, because hormones don't operate in isolation. They are a network, a system of signals that depend on each other to stay balanced. And when one part begins to shift, the entire system follows. But the system doesn't collapse all at once. It compensates, it adjusts, it tries to maintain balance, even when the conditions are no longer ideal. And that's why you can feel off for so long without anything feeling truly wrong. Your body is protecting you, buying time, trying to hold everything together. But it cannot do that forever because the modern world is not neutral. It is not designed for balance. It is filled with pressure, stimulation, constant input. From the moment you wake up, your attention is pulled in multiple directions. Your mind is engaged before your body is ready. Your thoughts begin racing before your system has stabilized. And your body responds. It always responds, even when you're not aware of it. Even when you think nothing is happening, every notification, every stress, every late night, every processed meal, it all becomes input, and your hormones interpret that input. They adjust accordingly. They shift your internal state to match your environment. And when that environment is constantly demanding, constantly stimulating, constantly overwhelming, your system never truly returns to balance. It stays activated, alert, ready, but never at rest. And this is where the slow breakdown begins, not because your body is weak, but because it is doing exactly what it was designed to do, in an environment it was never designed for. And over time, that mismatch creates imbalance, an imbalance that doesn't announce itself loudly, but makes itself known through how you feel. And the most important part? It is reversible, not instantly, not easily, but undeniably. Because your body is not broken, it is adaptive. It learned this state, which means it can unlearn it, but only if you understand what is happening beneath the surface. Only if you stop ignoring the signals and start listening to them, because everything you feel right now is part of a message. And that message is where the real story begins.